Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I'm your host, D Palm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. You can follow the entire show on Twitter at UDPod. And if you're going to talk about the show and not at me or the show, try to use the hashtag UDPod so we can say thanks for listening and maybe shout you out on the show. We are, of course, brought to you by the MTR Network. You can follow the entire network on Twitter at the MTR Network. When you find these podcasts that you love, don't just find them, make sure you subscribe to them so you don't miss any podcasts that come out. We do a bunch of stuff on the main MTR feed, but if you love UD Pod, and of course you do, make sure you subscribe to us as well so that when we drop episodes like this in the middle of the week or the end of a week, you don't miss it. You don't have to hunt and peck for it and hope that you catch them all. While you're subscribing, make sure you leave that 5-star review. It's a huge help to the show. We read them on the air. If you leave 5 stars, it gets read on the air. And there's not much more I can say than that. We're going to get your words heard on the air. You're going to affect the show. Your experience depends on the feedback we get. Also, more feedback, udpodcast@gmail.com. You can email us there. I think that's it. All right, we're back. It's again your Friday podcast for the next, 6 weeks. As we head down the road to Wrestlemania, I'm joined again by a member of PW Torch's East Coast cast, Rich Fan. Rich, how's it going, brother?
Outstanding, man. Looking forward to this chat about another week done in WWE and another week close to the big day in Orlando.
Yeah, man. We're getting closer, and it's getting more real, and the card's shaping up because, I don't think we're where we're going to be yet. We do like to start this off with a look at the WrestleMania 33 card as it stands. We haven't had much movement as far as confirmed matches. We're going to talk about things headed that direction. But right now, the card as it stands still stands at Goldberg versus Lesnar, which is going to be an interesting match. And now I love the fact that it's already updated on Wikipedia. Bray Wyatt versus either AJ Styles or Luke Harper, even though we all know Randy Orton's going to be wrestling in that match. I like what they're doing here. It's kind of the downside of the brand split is that while one brand is headed towards a pay-per-view, the other one's kind of got to tread water before the sprint. And we saw the effects of that today or this week on television. Before we get into this week on television, let's handle things outside the ring. First and foremost, heavy hearts. R.I.P. George the Animal Steele and Ivan Koloff, who passed away this week. Rich, do you have any particular memories of either one of these? I was a big WCW guy, so I have very vague memories of these guys.
Well, see, that's funny because I was a big WWE guy. The only time I learned about Ivan Koloff is when I was looking at the lineage of the WWE heavyweight title,
right,
and saw that he had beaten Bruno and then kind of fell off the face of the earth for a little bit.
He was a transitional champion.
Yeah, and he was a good one at that. And
right.
I heard an anecdote from Dave Meltzer, I want to say the day that, both of them died the same day, and it was amazing. And this goes to show where we are as wrestling fans. The reason Bruno lost the title to Ivan is because at the last big show, George beat him mercilessly in the shoulder with a steel chair, which they claim separated his shoulder and allowed him to be less than 100% going into that title match, which led to a near riot.
And then they took the belt off Bruno. Ivan held it, and who'd they give it to next?
That was by way to go to Pedro Morales.
That's who it was. I didn't want to be wrong, but I thought it was Pedro Morales. And it's interesting because we're talking about an era where heels and faces were much more defined, and you never had face versus face. So and it's particularly in the territory that Vince Sr. was running, if you wanted to transition the belt to another face, you'd have to have a transitional heel champion. And the territory at the time was a face territory, so you're going to have a face long-running champion. So people like Ivan Koloff would pop up just to serve to hand the belt to the next guy. And but not to say everything's got its role, everything's got its place. These guys are pillars of the wrestling industry. We all either remember or have been made educated about the Macho Man, Randy Savage, George Steele, Elizabeth, the love triangle. That was a great arc. It was a great build for Randy and Elizabeth, and George played his part beautifully. It's interesting that he played someone who couldn't speak on television, who chewed up turnbuckles, and who painted his mouth green. But when he wasn't in the ring, he was a high school teacher who had his master's.
Yeah, and I know the bell will get ready for this. When I was talking with Bruce Mitchell of The Torch about this, one of the things he mentioned was the fact that until Vince Jr. took over, I didn't know this, especially because I wasn't old enough to see it.
Right.
George was essentially proto Bane as a wrestler, where he would be a brute in the ring, but then be a very erudite speaker outside of it and talk about the things he'd have to do to you in the ring because that savage side of him demanded it. But then
it's crazy. I've actually seen some of the old clips. He could talk, man.
Yeah. But Vince wanted him to be a crazy brute. And the story goes, the very first time Vince took over and told him that, he went on TV and did what he thought was the most mentally handicapped person possible as an FU to Vince. And Vince off screen was like, I love it. Keep doing that.
when the rib backfires. Excuse me. Well, also, despite the sad news, there was some good news outside the ring this week. Diamond Dallas Page made it to the Hall of Fame. And for people who don't know, I think Page put it best in his interview with Brian Campbell of ESPN this week. He said that when he got started in the business, Dusty Rhodes told him only two things in this business are real: your first world title and the Hall of Fame. And he's really, there are interviews all over the internet. I'm going to quote some here, but for those who don't know, or those who weren't around, or those maybe like you who were WWF guys back in the day, this is a guy who was always on the fringe of the industry, man. He was a guy, he was manager for Vinny Vegas, who you guys better know as Kevin Nash. He had the diamond mine, like he had a stable. He was Jimmy Hart. But as he got older, he ended up becoming a full-time wrestler at 35. And because of his advanced age, obviously his run wasn't long. But man, for someone to start at 35, end up with 3 world title reigns, he pulled easily still on record the best match out of Bill Goldberg ever.
Yep.
He put on absolute classics. You got to go out and listen to some of the podcasts he's been on, some of the books he's written, because when he tells the story of them deciding, you know what? Because they were doing a huge, really a nuclear hot angle when he was just coming up the mid-card, upper mid-card transitional period before headed to the main event with Randy Savage. And it was personal. And Elizabeth was involved, and Paige's then wife, Kimberly, was involved. It was one of those blood feuds that was going to come to a head, I believe, either at War Games or Halloween Havoc. It was a fall pay-per-view, because I remember I watched it. And the story is known now, but they're in the back before the match because that's how WCW was booked, with no sort of plan. Bischoff said to Randy, he says, how do you think you want the finish to go? And, of course, Paige, being the greener guy, is just being quiet. This guy's a legend. He said, Savage looked him in the eye and said, I think I want to take the diamond cutter tonight. And after that night, it was a no-holds-barred match. They went all over the arena, but Paige left a made guy.
Yeah, I love the fact that DDP exists because, one, he is a living embodiment of what I try to tell my students during my day job, in that you have to get in where you fit in. And a lot of times it's going to be you as a person and a personality more than your qualifications that helps you through things. Because DDP was just a likable person throughout his life, both as a nightclub owner and then as a wrestling manager and then as a wrestler. There are very few people who have I hate DDP stories. In fact, the only person I know who actively hates Diamond Dallas Page is Bruce's best friend, Mark Madden, in which those guys are each other's peoples well before I came into the picture, so I just stepped to the side on that one.
Right.
But I'm also, personally, I'm a big fan of the fact that he listened to Jake and followed the one simple rule in pro wrestling: get your finisher over and you get over.
And there was no finisher. We can have the arguments about how the Monday Night Wars actually were, and hindsight 2020. There was nothing in wrestling hotter than the Diamond Cutter.
Yeah. I mean, Randy Orton. Mm-hmm. Randy Orton is like the side recipient. I know people, friends of mine, myself, and any of people listening who Japanese pro wrestling fans will say, Johnny Ace, or if you just know him in the WWE, Mr. Laurinaitis used the Ace Crusher, right, and it was devastating in all Japan pro wrestling. But when you look at the Diamond Cutter and the way he did it, while it's just like when people talk about the idea of Vanilla Ice borrowing the song and then going into the courtroom and it's like, I added that little drum beat at the end. That drum beat was all the difference for Diamond Dallas Page, to the point now where Randy Orton, in my mind, is biting a bit off of that with the RKO out of nowhere.
See, I would agree with you, except Randy went to Page and asked.
That's fair. That's
He
fair.
asked, he said, look, it's a great finish, it's a great gimmick. Do you mind if I use your finish? He said, kid, I'm done. You got it. And that's the kind of guy Page was, particularly in his second act, because you talk about a guy who was a heavyweight champion in WCW, a deserving one. The first People's Champ, The Rock, everyone, The Rock's the people. Page was first. Page was first. He wrestled. When they needed someone to say we need a big promo match, I think it was Hog Wild at the time, or Road Wild. They may have actually lost that lawsuit and become Road Wild by then. But we're talking about a main event match where it's Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman and another basketball player, Karl Malone, paired with Diamond Dallas Page. Who's going to work the biggest marquee match? Who's the one that's going to get to go on Leno and promo it? Who's going to be the one at Jazz training camp doing stuff with Karl Malone? Could have been Sting. It could have been Luger. It could have been Savage. You could have worked anyone in that spot. Because of who Page is, he got the rub. And it carried on to his second act in life. The guy's literally saved some of our favorite professional wrestlers' lives. Jake the Snake Roberts would not be alive without him. Scott Hall would not be alive without him. I'm putting myself over here. He eats at my buddy's restaurant. I've never met him because I'm afraid that I'll mark out when I see him. Because, if anything, I was a huge Page fan. But more than that, I'm like, thank you for keeping Jake the Snake Roberts alive.
Yep, same with me. Well, both of them. I have a lot of family members who have dealt with drug and alcohol issues, and pro wrestling being my first love before football, seeing those guys in later stages of their life, regardless. And I know the argument's been made, they made so much money, they didn't need help. But when those guys were in need and DDP remembered where he came from and who looked out for him when he was on his way up, that more than anything was reassuring to me that, like, there are some good people in the world. And, personally, I am a big proponent of DDP yoga. I use it. I lost like 35 pounds doing it. And it's instrumental in keeping me limber and making sure my 5-year-old doesn't kill me when he goes off the top rope.
This is not a paid advertisement. If Page wants to support us, we will let him. I want to just read a little excerpt from the interview we did with Brian Campbell before we move on. They talked about how Triple H broke the news of Hall of Fame to him and how they reflect on their time together in WCW. They hand me the phone and say, the boss wants to talk to you. I realize it's Triple H. And I said, Paulie, what's up, man? I had called him a couple weeks ago, so I was expecting his call back. He was down with me at the power plant. He was terrorizing in WCW. There is a match out there from the power, from whatever the Saturday night was. It's awesome. Terrorizing. Oh, man. And we rode together. We hung together. He's talking about, I never thought you could do it. This guy was like 35 and a half. What were you thinking? But you did it. He put me over on the phone to such a degree that I said, wait a minute. Is this that call? I started to get choked up and couldn't even talk. I generally tune out the Hall of Fame. I'll be watching Page's induction. I don't know who introduced him. It probably would have been Dusty. It's very sad that Dusty passed away before he could get in. But the same way Dusty Rhodes would put people over by just, hey man, he's a friend of Dusty. Friend of Page was, FOP was a thing at WCW. He got Glacier's job. He got Bischoff to sign Raven. Like he, if you were good with Page, you were good with the company. And I think this is first of all, it's also a make good from WWE for the way they treated him while he was on the roster. And kind of the way they've treated WCW's legacy. I think it's a larger make good, but it's deserved first act, second act, all acts. He's a class act. Diamond Dallas Page. That was a pretty good promo. I'm not going to lie to you there. I didn't plan that class act thing. That came out of nowhere. We have any more news? Head to WrestleMania. We know who's going to be hosting. We just don't know what hosting means. The most entertaining act on the planet, The New Day, a very elite group of professional sports entertainers, will be hosting WrestleMania. I got to ask, Rich, what the hell does that mean?
It's going to be more of what happened with The Rock and several other people I can't remember who have hosted in prior years. And it's going to be them in zany skits. It's going to be like Lieutenant Frank Drebin looking for The Undertaker before he made his return at SummerSlam. So I think it's just going to be the shenanigans Vince wants but can't fit into a match.
Yeah, I think that do you think that this speaks more to their draw power or to the weakness of the Raw Tag Division or to the the talent richness of this roster? Because I was kind of doing some booking in my head and I was like, wait a second, there's a lot of people who aren't going to make this main card.
I think it's a combination of all three, but I would lean mostly on the fact that there isn't anyone for them to fight, and there isn't that next step that they would typically take. And
They
I
can't
talk
do
about
that.
this.
Don't
Yeah,
they even say, don't put that evil on my podcast.
I don't want to get a hashtag blame Rich, but they don't want to do that. They don't want that Rockers moment.
Man.
They're not going to put a rocket ship on. And that's, we talked about that last week when we did the live cast. My most annoying thing is I really wish they would make the move of at least, if not break them up, give one of the members of the New Day, like we mentioned last week, a prolonged push. And if you want to make it, we are the Universal Champion. We are the United States Champion. Though, really, to be honest, at this point, I would hope the New Day gets traded post WrestleMania to SmackDown so that Xavier Woods can finally make that Intercontinental title he won in a video game contest versus Miz, an actual Intercontinental title.
He's gonna win it. He's gonna shoot when it's, or I guess work shoot. I don't know. He shoot one it. So now he's gonna work win it. I like that. That's
yes.
Good. I think that you're right. That's something that's also been very interesting in the trades after Mania. We'll talk about that further down the line. But you're right. I think that they would be a great fit on SmackDown. Would shoot the whole tag division in charm, and they're a little thin in that mid and upper mid card. Like, that's the place where you stick a Kofi Kingston, give him an IC run, or Woods an IC one. I would love to see Woods dip his toe in 205 Live, to be perfectly honest. I think you do some great work with those guys down there, but hey, that's just me. I'm just one guy. Let's talk about Raw, the flagship show, as they call it, home of the Universal title. We had a pretty damn good episode of Raw, and I say that almost begrudgingly because 3 hours is a lot of airtime to fill, and of course there's going to be peaks and valleys, but for me, the peaks were so high. Even the Open, we're all accustomed at this point to kind of the recipe of the Open. It's going to be, you get the video intro, the hard pyro, and then probably Stephanie McMahon's music's going to hit. Just rolling the dice, probably Steph. That's not Open this week. Dark Arena, single spotlight, Kevin Owens in a microphone, in a suit.
Yeah, that was magical. And him reenacting the style of interview he would give when he was the sadistic top dog.
That was a Kevin Steen, middle of the ring, I'm telling you what I'm going to do promo.
Yep.
And you know the best thing about it, Rich?
What's that?
I left that promo thinking, oh shit, maybe he does beat Lesnar. Or maybe he does beat Goldberg.
Yeah, he's like, I got a plan.
I know he's not, but that's the mark of a good promo. That's how you know you're good at your job. I love suspending my disbelief. My little smart heart was like, maybe he can do it. Because then I start booking in my head like, well, what if you book Brock to take out Owens in the end of the match? He wins by DQ, and you set up a Brock Owens match down the line. You see, what they've done is they added that just little soupçon of doubt that allows the freedom of booking, and there's so, of course, I think that obviously we're getting Goldberg Lesnar, and I think it's going to be for the Universal title, but what they showed on Monday is that they could keep this belt on Kevin.
It would be nice.
They won't.
No.
But
but just like we've said about all of WrestleMania, it isn't the fact that we have an idea where the road's going. Right. The way they're taking us down it, we could have so many detours. Everything could change, but there's still going to be those.
Got us that amazing Dean Ambrose Triple H match.
Yes. Oh man, that Fastlane, yeah.
Was it Roadblock?
Roadblock, that's right.
It was great. It was an amazing match. It had no business happening here before Mania, but it did. I don't know where this is going. I don't know what Fastlane's going to look like. I don't know what this Owens-Goldberg match is going to be. It could just be another squash. I don't think it is, though. I said earlier, Paige pulled the best match out of Goldberg ever. Mr. Owens, you're on the clock. The story continued backstage. Owens tried to leave. Mick wouldn't let him. He said he had a match with Sami Zayn, which, by the way, when you tell me they're done wrestling for, don't say ever. You said ever. I didn't believe you then either. They shouldn't touch for 6 months.
Right. This
is the second Raw match since that match at Battleground. Well, I know that as a booker, you're saying, look, we need a good 15 minutes that the crowd will be into, that has good spot. Yeah, hell, Kevin and Sami got great chemistry. Kevin and Sami should matter. That match should matter. I'd move Sammy to SmackDown after the draft, after WrestleMania. Get him the IC title run that I know he deserves. And don't let them even mention each other until Survivor Series and have it come down to them as the last two.
Yeah. And shove Dolph. I'd trade Sammy for Dolph in a heartbeat.
In a New York minute.
And, in my world, in my head, it's like, Sammy, if I were a GM, this is like that friend who you hope is dumb enough in fantasy football to trade you like Ricky Williams for Shady McCoy and
really, the Ricky Williams man. That was an old.
Yeah, it's like it says RET by his name, and why am I trading?
Just try it. No, Ricky.
No. It just means he's worth
resting.
Twice. He's resting. He's tired.
Look, man, I think you're right. I think Sami Zayn's preordained. So I've always been of the mind that Seth Rollins is going to be WWE branded, safe, reliable version of CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sami Zayn is WWE approved, reliable, safe Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, and one thing, I mentioned this last week, the one thing that can hold him back, and it's right when I can enjoy my pro wrestling, the real world rears its ugly face.
You're gonna say it.
The travel ban. If the travel ban gets put back through because of the fact that he's a second generation Syrian Canadian citizen whose parents had been Muslim, but he is atheist, he runs the risk of not being able to make it back in the United States.
They've got an owner who's in the cabinet. They'll be fine. God, that's a horrifying sentence.
Just wait for the one ignorant TSA agent with, he's got the Intercontinental title. What's in this bag?
He's going to catch? He's going to catch an exploder suplex into a metal detector.
You can't scream explode in an airport, Paul.
You don't yell it when you throw it. You just hit the move.
You whisper it.
Michael Cole yells exploder suplex. He gets arrested. Everyone's fine. Anyway, as the match was supposed to happen, you had Samoa Joe. And my head and my heart, I started booking that because they've had those work shoot interviews with H where he's like, I'm just trying to stay out of the ring. I'm ready to hand off to the young guys. He's the one who whispered in Kevin Owens' ear before the Festival of Friendship last week. He's the one who expressly brought in Samoa Joe. Call up the Revival after Mania. Evolution with H as a manager.
Yeah, that's the new Evolution.
A tag champ, a dominant Universal Champion, and an enforcer in Samoa Joe. Because that's one thing they've really sold there. They've sold the Destroyer thing. I don't know if they'll ever let him have the Muscle Buster on the main roster. I'm starting to wonder about that. But, yeah, let's do this. And are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I wanted to make sure because I know people feel a certain kind of way because the story and kind of like the meta story that we're all kind of booking in our heads is this is an internal take. Why were the NXT events called takeovers?
Right.
Like this is Triple H bringing up his own army. And if you could set up to be Triple H's little army versus a returning Balor club.
Yeah, that would not be.
That could be too sweet, as the kids say. Women's division gets another spotlight on Raw. Bayley with an uninspiring first half of her promo. Let's just say it what it was. She's good on the mic. She's not great on the mic, and that was one of her weaker moments on a microphone. That said, I thought she really picked up when she told Stephanie hell no, and I thought she did a lot better when the ring had more people in it. I know we're all kind of waiting for the inevitable Sasha turn, and I think they're going to set up for that match. I would say either Mania, because I don't think either Mania will get the 4-way with them and the three of them and Nia Jax, which should be a great match. Or they're building towards. I think they're going to build towards Bayley Sasha at SummerSlam, or if they have an event out west, because that's why they had Bayley do the shine spot that night was. She's from LA. She's from San Diego, so that's give the hometown girl a little rub. Didn't love the fact that they had Charlotte tap.
Mm-hmm.
You've gone through a lot of work trying to believe what a threat she is, and that Sasha can't beat her, and that's the manipulation of Bayley, but Sasha just made her tap again.
Well, like I joked last week, Charlotte is the inverted Uriah Faber. She only can win the big one. And so I didn't mind it too much. And when it came to Bayley, it's weird. And as an Atlanta, those sorts of things stick out to me just because when I've been to California, like I know how much the NorCal and SoCal people can't stand each other.
Right.
But if you're in, LA and saying I'm from San Jose and I'm like you guys, that'd be like someone in, Twin City or even like somewhere along the line at the border of Alabama and Georgia saying, hey, I'm from over here. That's just like being in Atlanta.
That's a good point. It's a really good point. I think that she thought those lines would go over better than they did. And that kind of threw off her game there. But Stephanie was on her game. She carried the segment until the other young ladies came down. We had a pretty decent TV match out of Sasha and Charlotte. You're okay with the booking. I'm a little iffy on it, especially if things go the way it looks like they're pointing. Cruiserweight division, 205 Live. I'm going to just plug this really quickly. If you're not watching it, it's a crisp hour of wrestling, and it's super entertaining because it may be the best announcing group they've got working. It's Amaro, it's Corey, and it's, God bless him, the greatest man who ever lived, Austin Aries.
Yeah,
You talk about.
I know we might get to it, but I really enjoyed the fact that he got to hang out with his longtime girlfriend, Thea Trinidad, Monday, and still just be a whole piece of crap.
We are going to bring that up. But let's talk about the promo between Jack Gallagher and Neville. I loved it. It really made me excited for their match at Fastlane. I think that the juxtaposition of the gentleman versus the angry Brit was really well done. And I like that he kind of poked holes in Neville's character. Like, you said they didn't appreciate you. They did appreciate you. You're just being weird now.
Yeah. And it was the one thing, and that's where it isn't Vince so much, but it's people not giving a proper voice to Neville. All of the criticisms he's had so far are the criticisms the office had about him.
Right.
And then he calls Gallagher a stereotype, but then says, I'm a stereotype. I'm ugly. This is what really English people look like. We're ugly. We're loud. We have big ears. We smell of asparagus. What?
It was, look, man, as far as getting those guys over and giving them a personality on the main roster, I was all for it. I thought it was a great signing. I thought that even, the contract signing that we all know how they end, they can still be entertaining on the way there, and I thought this one was. We had 2 tag matches on Raw. Enzo and Cass going over Sheamus and Cesaro, which started with the crowd doing Enzo's chant with him and ended with them getting brogue kicked and people chanting, thank you, Sheamus. So that's a weird level of strange they've achieved there. And again, the club wrestles Roman Reigns. Are we devaluing our tag champs, or is there a tag division to devalue?
I would say yes, because when this happened in the Attitude Era, Vince would send out this, whatever corporate team to beat up on Austin. And then whomever with the other authority figure would say, okay, Steve, you got to the main event to find a partner. And most of the time, because he had the DTA attitude, his partner would be someone crazy like Harvey Whippleman or, just random homeless person. And then he got Dude Love for a little bit. And so I think with Roman, they're trying too hard, and they're trying so hard that you're now not only devaluing – the tag team division was already shaky with only 2.5 teams, 3 teams at the top.
Right.
Now you're taking your tag champs and saying they can't beat Roman Reigns one-on-one.
Yeah, you're right. I was gonna say they won the match because of the disqualification with the chair, but you're right. They come out looking really weak. I tell you what, though, that spear on Carl Anderson was disgusting.
Yes,
that was great. I know people feel the way about Roman. I like Roman Reigns. I think live he translates a lot better than he was on television, just because it's a level of physicality. It's not really, the camera work doesn't do him any favors. Mm-hmm. But I thought that the spear was really great. And then the main event, which I was ready to hate and ready to turn off and watch something else, and I was ready to say, Vince, you don't get what we want. We want Cesaro in a classic. We want to have AJ Styles and Nakamura. Yeah, well, that Braun Big Show match was fun as hell. And for all the times I sit here and say Vince doesn't know what he's talking about, Vince is out of touch, 2 7-footers who can go, it's pretty damn entertaining, Rich.
Yeah, they went to town. I mean, it started, and it was just a war. Halfway through, when they kept teasing the superplex, I was giddily hoping that it would be that Big Show Brock or Big Show Mark Henry spot where the ring just
I
implodes.
called. I was like, oh, they're going to do the ring spot thing, and they didn't.
And they even took time. I got to give them kudos. They took time to mention during the match that they reinforced the ring. It was like, this is going to be a hoss fight, so it's hoss fight approved. And by God, they were right. All they needed was that southwestern twang of one James Ross to just lose his mind and talk about the accolades of what both of those guys have done prior to getting into the WWE. And
for people who don't realize it, we've watched someone become a legitimate professional wrestler before our eyes. Braun worked maybe 1 or 2 TV NXT matches before getting called up. He came in and he was greener and goosey. Like the guy, he didn't have to bump because he couldn't bump or sell.
Right.
Like they built him as this monster because like, I don't know how to do it. You watch him take that avalanche KO punch, or sell death after that choke slam. Like this is a guy. This guy's become a professional wrestler, a legitimately good one, and then countering a spear with a basement dropkick. Yeah. I'm here for Braun Strowman. I was wrong, Vince. You again know what the fuck you're doing, and put the belt on him tomorrow. I don't care. He has officially, for me, no ceiling because he does everything you need that character to do.
Yeah, and more. I mean,
Exactly.
I was arguing with
the dropkick is more.
I was arguing with my my host on the East Coast cast, Travis, and he trained to be a wrestler before he got out of the business in Philadelphia, and he was saying, the one thing his trainer said was a big man should just be a big man. You don't need to do the little man stuff like the kip up, which was insane, by the way. Like he is a creative wrestler. As much as people might take shots at Roman for being a creative wrestler, Braun Strowman is the creative wrestler. You don't get a human being that's 380 pounds that can kip up or can run. I mean, Vince is enamored with the fact that he can run as fast as he can. And I didn't pay attention to it until I saw a match with him against Sin Cara, where Sin Cara was supposed to do a tope, and he beat him from outside the ring into the other side of the ropes. Right. And this isn't a Dana Brooke running a 7.740. This is Sin Cara running full tilt and Braun running full tilt, sliding under the ring. So that dude can go. And he's lost a smooth 80 pounds since he's been on the main roster.
Great. He's been great. I'm legitimately excited for him and Reigns at Fastlane. Legitimately excited. I can't wait for just watch these two guys just beat the hell out of each other. Because if you'll remember, Roman pulled a good match out of Show last year when Show was not plugged in.
Mm-hmm.
Extreme Rules after Mania. That's a good Roman Reigns Big Show match. And it's going to be good to see him bump for someone, particularly if that rumored Taker match happens. Because he's going to have to sell his ass off for Taker because he's old. You mentioned it earlier. Post-Raw, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, future President Johnson, as he's known.
Yes. 46.
46. Vice President Cena. I would vote for that card. I'll say it right now. The Rock came out and they shot one of the scenes for the television show they're producing about Paige's family. People hear that and say, oh, well, Paige was being great graces with the company. I do know her family sold the rights to their story. The story's not about Paige. She's a character in it. And what they did was they reshot the match versus AJ Lee, her first night on Raw after WrestleMania 30, I believe, winning the Divas title. Who was it who played AJ?
AJ was played by, I don't know the actress's name, but Thea Trinidad was her stunt
double. And I believe it was Tessa Blanchard.
Yep.
Playing Paige, who, for those who don't know, that's Tully Blanchard's daughter, and that's also Ricochet's girlfriend. And she's done like a couple spots in NXT, but it's good to see her building that relationship with the company, showing she's a trusted hand, even if it is in the film division right now. Before the match, to get all the crowd hype, because one of the problems is they filmed it after Raw, and if you've been to Raw live since it went to 3 hours, that's a slog. So in that dark match spot, they had Rock come out and kind of pop the crowd some so they get a good reaction for the Paige match they were going to walk through. So he decides to hop on his phone and call CM Punk. Now, in the world of professional wrestling, I need everyone to understand, everything's a work. because you can't see me right now, I'm holding my cell phone. I just called Punk. Hold on. Like, do you think he actually called Punk?
Oh, I do because of the fact I do because of the fact that when they showed the footage online, he put the phone to the mic and you heard his voicemail, and then Punk actually responded on Twitter.
Yeah,
like
but
the timeline of it.
on Twitter, but people could have told him that. Like that didn't help for me. But if you say that you heard the voice in the voicemail, all right, the voice was on the voicemail. There, I'm promo off today. I don't know what's going on. I'm locked in.
Oh, and yes, and also per Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer, Vince sent not one but two referees to the ring to tell Dwayne to stop doing that.
Yeah, but again, like I fall back on everything making it work.
But see, you're trying to be the smart face. Like, all right, I'm not gonna fall for anything.
Everything's a work. It's hard for me to get excited because everything's a work. But when CM Punk comes back in 3 years, which he's coming back, everyone comes back. That's spoilers. Do you want to be a smarky? Everyone comes back.
Well, we'll see. Now that's the one that's going to be the least likely. Oh, well, Hogan's going to be back soon because Vince McMahon, outside of Martin Luther King, doesn't really care about civil rights or black people. That I have no problem with. When it comes to CM Punk, though, you're currently suing this guy so he can actively spend the money you gave him just because he told your son-in-law, I'll take a drug test when you do, Scott Steiner wise.
We'll see. I don't know. I think everyone comes back. I think the opportunities for Punk outside of the industry haven't been as fruitful as he thought. His wife is releasing a book. She's recording an audiobook right now. But I think that, maybe you didn't need... I guess it was good to have The Rock at Staples, but people were going to pop for AJ's music for the first time in 4 years.
Yeah.
They're just going to pop. All right, let's talk about SmackDown Live. Opened up with Bryan Danielson, as Naomi called him Brian during the segment, always told it, talking to her fellow Total Divas co-star. Naomi had to give up the belt. And people were saying, oh, it's a work, it's a part of the angle. The other rumor out there, I know you're aware of it, she has the same MCL injury as Rollins, both on pace to come back for Mania. Do you think it's a good setup spot for her to win her title back in her hometown? Which, by the way, they've been selling a lot lately. And that's one of the things about pro wrestling. If they mention it 3 or 4 times, keep your eye on it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's accurate, and I find it ironic that on one hand, you are completely on the, not even on the fence. You're completely denying the possibility of the Punk stuff, but on this one, you're like, I believe this one.
Well, I think she's actually hurt, but I also think it works to the angle. I think they could have shipped her anyway. They could have found a way to get the title off her, but the actual injury helped expedite that.
Yeah, and actually is a good aside because Brian mentioned the book that I just pre-ordered that night when I heard him mention it, and it was actually because Daniel Bryan is not one to lie. He mentioned that he wrote the foreword of the WWE rule book and how things are all arranged. Kind of like how the NFL throws it on a random PDF on like 18 links of a website. So I was like, okay, I'll pay $14 to see how you interpret the 30-day rule, considering Brock defended once every, new moon. But yeah, I thought it was believable. I think Alexa Bliss, for what she lacks in the ring right now in terms of learning on the job, kind of like Braun, she more than makes up for when she gets a mic in her hand. She is a treat to listen to because she's that soccer mom or the dance mom that's going to show up and make your daughter's life a living hell and let you know she meant it. It's like, oh, we got this crying out of the way. Let's just get to the part where I get my belt back, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. They had the match with Alexa and Bailey, or Becky, excuse me. Another roll-up finish. I don't know how I feel about it. I guess the belt had to get back to Alexa. I would have just awarded it to her because now it feels like you're overplaying that match a little bit. And I don't know. I'm excited to see different matchups. I would like to see Becky take the belt off Alexa. I want to see Becky Naomi at Mania. We haven't seen that matchup yet.
Yeah, that would be good. And WrestleMania is a great time for that face-face. We're fighting for respect, and we're gonna do this the right way and show people how the women do it on SmackDown. Absolutely.
Of course, there'll be like some where they're a tag team and someone actually hits someone else. Like they'll build the animosity. But you're right, the double face match particularly with this brand, could definitely work. It's such a fan and SMARC-friendly brand. So as we continue our streak of SmackDown Live having more women's segments in 2 hours than Raw does in 3, Nikki and Natalya had probably my favorite of their encounters.
Mm-hmm.
They really did. They used the Fall Count Anywhere thing. They worked the room. Nikki had a beautiful, I think it was almost like a disaster kick off the barricade.
Yeah, that
was just
awesome.
a great match, and it all gets thrown in the trash by Maurice with the most rubber-looking lead pipe of all time attacking Nikki.
Well, she's 80.
And confirming every rumor that we've all heard for the last 2 months.
Well, yeah, she's 80 pounds, so Maurice, they didn't want to give her something too heavy because then she'd rear back. But the one thing I want to note about this match is I am a huge proponent of actually having people have emotion when a match starts. If you are in a blood feud with someone, it makes zero sense to me that you would collar and elbow tie up with them. When these ladies, as the bell rang, they are punching each other in the face. The only match that had this much heat is, if you get a chance, look at the Kamitachi versus Dragon Lee matches in New Japan, CMLL, and basically any backyard alley or any place they could find a spot where those two can throw things or each other off of high places. They start as if you're playing the WWE video game and you have like 5 finishers and 3 signatures available and just go from there. And that's what those ladies did. I really appreciated the fact that Maurice, I guess, kind of died in the back in her makeup area.
Yeah, it was a good match. I think we're going to build towards clearly that mixed tag match looks like it's happening as we get towards the main event. There was another tag match on the card this week. American Alpha, the champs, took on Breezango. Breezango could be really good if they use him right. I think they could be just a really good kind of like how Tyler Breeze was in NXT, kind of a mid-card heel gatekeeper for tag teams that are making the ascension. I think if you can establish them and get some time, particularly with them on camera doing vignettes or maybe at Talking Smack, establish the characters more. But those guys are sharp in the ring, and I'm a big Tyler Breeze mark. The Usos came out and cut a promo. What was your take on the promo? Because I was watching something else, and I got the tweets, fire promo, Usos are back. I watched it later, less moved. What about you? Where do you land?
I liked it, and mainly because I mentioned to a few friends, it was because of the fact that I watched Total Divas when the Usos joined up with Naomi, and this is, and on the Raw side, how I imagine what will happen whenever they let Roman be himself 100%, because these guys are the same way. Like most Samoan dudes I know, I don't know why this is, are like a hair removed from just being the blackest non-black folk I know. Like to the point where, like even on Talking Smack, they're doing their heel shtick, and then Jimmy completely on a 180 turns to Daniel Bryan. Why you had to get my sister the title like that? Why you had to take the title, man? You could at least told one of us. We out here trying to regulate on people, and then you got to do this. I got tears in my eyes. I got to hide them. Got to go beat on it. I was going to beat on an American Alpha because my sister can't have a belt. Why can't we have belts, Daniel? Why can't we have belts?
He's not wrong.
Yeah, and the way these guys, obviously they're twins, so they have a great rapport. But when you take that and you allow them to be themselves without adding any of the overly racial stuff, like you don't have them be the Wild Samoans like their dad had to be. They're not eating fish. They're not shucking and jiving as Scotty 2 Hotty and Grandmaster Sexay put on some shades. They're just two dudes. And also body-wise, I think we got to give credit to the WWE between Alexa Bliss fighting bulimia or anorexia. I can't remember what food disorder she had as a kid. To the Usos and the body types that they're showing. Like Jimmy is pretty svelte, but Jay is kind of like, he's like a man. He doesn't have like quote-unquote dad bod, but he doesn't have a swimmer's build like Orton. Or he's not like Roman. Like Roman is basically, for all the crap that Roman gets as a wrestler, I stand by the fact that you look at a picture of him when he played at Georgia Tech and you look at a picture of him now and you don't get that without ridiculous hard work.
I don't think anyone's questioned his hard work. I think that people have questioned the booking and stuff like that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that the Usos, this is a good moment for them. And I think that the Talking Smack, I think, landed better for me than even the in-ring promo did. But I kind of want, because of the 2 hours, they're kind of pressed for time. They want to get as much in-ring as possible, and it makes sense. But if we can spend more time with these characters, I would really love those motivations be more spelled out. 10-man battle royal into the show. This was just a chance to advance these stories, guys. Ziggler and Cruz is clearly headed to something, probably a through with Kalisto. Dean and Corbin, there's your IC title match. We advanced the Miz Cena mixed tag that's coming. And then you get the tease at the end of the triple threat with the former Wyatt and Luke Harper, Bray, and possibly Randy Orton injecting himself once this tie is resolved. I got a question for you. So the rumor's out. We talked about it on the show. AJ Shane at Mania. I'm one who's not for it because I don't think Shane McMahon's brand of entertainment is for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to watch just a stunt man do stunts. I'm here to watch a professional wrestling match. The guy works his ass off, but I'm a full-timer guy.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I had been an unabashed member of the Shane McMahon fan club and Spaghetti Jamboree, but after watching that Survivor Series match and then hearing Jericho on Talk Is Jericho mention Shane potatoed him twice, and so he had to drop kick him, shoot in the face to say, "Hey brother, calm down," and then Shane got it.
No, you're right. That's something that sticks out to me. But what if? Because that's where we all think we're headed. We all think we're headed to Shane, AJ. AJ gets screwed out of this title shot next week. He goes to Shane, and for some reason just blames all the authority, blames everyone in charge. Shane, who hasn't been on TV in weeks, says, "You want something? I got something. I got a match for you at Mania, but you're not going to wrestle me." Because if there's one place in America you can debut an NXT star at Mania, it's Orlando.
Yeah.
Full Sail's a part of that town. NXT is a well-established part of that town. And if you wanted to go Nakamura AJ, particularly with how enamored this company backstage has been with the response to Omega Okada, this is a chance for them to throw their hat in the 6-star match ring in our biggest event.
No, you're right. Absolutely.
But Nakamura's treading water down in NXT this week. He wrestled, I think it was TJ Perkins.
Yeah. Oh, that was taping for.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Yeah.
At some point, Nakamura's going to wrestle TJ Perkins. I'm not spoiling the rest of the tapings, but that happens.
I think it was like 2 weeks before whenever they're going to do Takeover, or maybe.
You can guess who went over in that match? Just
TJ Perkins. Finger poke of doom.
First loss, first non-title loss for Nakamura is going to be TJP.
Yep, and then he grabbed the mic and talked about men's rights.
Jesus. No, but I think there's a way to book Nakamura into the spot. There's a way to do it so everyone leaves happy. Do you see them taking that shot and maybe saying, we don't want to have the chairman's son die? Maybe we'll just send out an actual, professional wrestler. And because in Orlando, they will pop for him.
Yes, they will. And my only fear, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little bit ago, that they won't change it, even if they had that great idea, is because of the gentleman who was the keynote of their Hall of Fame match that weekend, Mr. Angle. Because they're going to want to show in the highlights Shane getting thrown through the glass, Shane getting suplexed every which way against Kurt.
They won't show him not going through the glass twice, will they? They won't show the actual brain damage that was caused because he didn't go through it the first time.
They probably will, because they want to show
cherry pick those highlights.
How down for the culture Shane is, and that makes me think they want to get that moment with AJ where he's doing a 450 to Shane through a table like he did for 8 people on TNA's pay-per-views back when they were.
Oh, poor TNA.
Yeah, but if they did switch to Nakamura versus AJ, I, for one, would be ecstatic, and I would love to see those two ply their trade on the grandest stage of them all. I mean, last year I was for it. I said, hey, I wanted to see Wrestle Kingdom, Nakamura, AJ, WrestleMania, Nakamura, AJ. And you know what? That Sami Zayn match with Nakamura was not a bad consolation prize.
No, it was not.
And no offense to Bobby Roode.
At all.
None of this, you should, you guys listen, you should not assume this is a slight by either of us, I think.
We're going to do an NXT deep dive as we get closer, I promise.
Yeah.
But you're right. This is not about Bobby Roode. This is about the appeal of that Wrestle Kingdom 10 match that they had together. AJ's already brought out the white gear. Look. I do need that match to happen. Before we get to the outro, I realize that I've had you on the show, this and the main show, well, it's all one show, 4 or 5 times. I've never asked you the question. I started asking my guests.
Okay.
Whew. Brett or Sean?
Wait, what?
Brett or Sean? You're a Brett guy, you're a Sean guy.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Predator. I was like, Predator Sean.
No, I'm sorry.
I was like, what?
Now you're stalling, so you don't want to answer. Come on.
I'm a shoot. Oh, this is tough. Because my brother's growing up, my brother was unabashed Brett, and I liked them both, but I gotta go Brett. Even though Sean's had probably at the end of his career some of the best matches I've seen in my life.
That was the correct answer. Brett was the correct answer.
Brett's, yeah. I always get stuck in my head the match he had against Diesel, where he wound up with your favorite move, the roll up of doom, and it pissed him off so much he put Brett through the table. And the way Brett crumbled, that is the greatest sell job I've ever seen any pro wrestler do in any match. When you got to see the Bret Hart chest first bump into the turnbuckle and he just collapsed into himself, and he's never hurt anyone. That's the other thing. As much as he jumps on,
amazing.
He jumps on, Seth, and I kind of don't want him to be the angry man that's retired telling the kids, back in my day we ran.
Man yells at cloud.
Yeah, but he's right. He's wrestled. I mean, God bless him. He got crippled by Bill Goldberg, and he could have potatoed him.
He got crippled by WCW putting a damn trap door in that ring for no damn good reason.
Oh, that too.
Well, thanks for coming on. We'll be back next week with more Road to Wrestlemania. Rich, tell them where they can find you, bro.
You can find me on Twitter at RDOTDEUCE or Buffalo Wins, where I cover Buffalo Bills, or at Pro Wrestling Torch, where I do a weekly show on Wednesdays with my buddy Travis Bryan and Cameron Hawkins, and on Friday with the venerable Bruce Mitchell.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on. Again, this is UD Pod, the Unanimous Decision Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at dpalm66. You can follow the show on Twitter at UD Pod. We'll be back with a brand new Unanimous Decision Podcast on Monday. We're talking NBA trade deadline and all the news of the week. That was your show. This is your outro. See you guys later.
Southern boys with the promised strength. Ain't nobody man enough to feel the pain. And you could be next. You better give respect. Cause ain't nobody breaking this redneck. No, they don't want none. No, they don't want none. They don't want none. No, they don't want none. They don't want none. No, they don't want none. They looking scared. No, they don't really want none. And I'm a Mack truck. Don't get run over. Race a country.